through a sample response to the interest group's argumentative question the other day about whether interest groups are a benefit to our democratic system or if they're more of a hindrance. And so I'm going to walk you through the steps of what we're looking for. And, the first one's just for bonus points there. And I tried to be, as complimentary and critical as possible so that you know what it is we're looking for. And a couple of you sent me messages and said, "Hey, look at this. I thought I'd address this." And I went back and looked at them, and a few people had made some good points about things. So if you ever have questions about stuff, don't worry about sending me a message and asking me to look at something again. I don't mind that. I try to put as many comments as possible to be explanatory, but I wanted to walk you through this so you know what we're talking about. And I'm just going to give you some sample answers to this, all right? And so in this particular case, I'm going to take the position that interest groups are bad for American society. So for the thesis, and I'm going pretty simple here. So we're going to say that interest groups represent a fundamental problem for the American political process, and then because, okay? The biggest problem, and some people didn't do this, they didn't put a because statement, all right? You've got to have a line of reasoning. So first part, I came down on a side. Interest groups represent a fundamental problem for the American political process, and then because, okay? I want to see a statement, a thesis statement in your first paragraph. Many of you all left me guessing, and I had to really look hard for this. And I don't mind doing that, but the AP readers, if they don't see a thesis, if they can't easily identify it, they're just not going to give you a point. All right. Interest groups represent a fundamental problem for the American political process because the large amount of money they inject into the process is or has a corrupting effect. Okay. There it is. That's my thesis statement. I'm going straight now into the evidence. And we had to use several different things. And so one of which I'm going to use for my first one here is evidence one, Citizens United. Look no further than the Citizens United case. All right. And if you just say the Citizens United case, you don't have to put versus FEC. They know what you're talking about. All right. Don't abbreviate, or if you are going to abbreviate, like let's say you just wanted to put Citizens United case and then refer to it as CU the rest of the way, put it in parentheses beside it so they know you're abbreviating it for that. So look no further than the Citizens United case to see the problem of money in politics. In this decision, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations and unions could spend unlimited amounts of money on political activity, provided that they did not coordinate with the campaign or candidate. This allowed for the advent or creation of super PACs, groups which can spend unlimited amounts of cash on political activity and do not have an obligation to disclose their donors. Okay, so I'm explaining evidence piece number one here. You've got to talk something about the case itself and the outcome of the case. All right. And so I did that right there. And I said this allowed for the creation of super PACs, groups which can spend unlimited amounts of money on cash or political activity, and they don't have an obligation to disclose their donors. It's relevant evidence, it's explained, and it's connected to my thesis here, that money, okay? And the second piece of evidence that I'm going to use is, and I've left space for three just because I want to, all right? The second piece of evidence that I'm going to describe here is a course concept, that groups often hire lobbyists to connect with lawmakers for the purpose of swaying their votes on particular bills in Congress. Right? Groups pay large sums of money to these lobbyists who, in turn, go to Congress and provide them with gifts or other benefits which could sway their votes. All right, so that's my second piece of evidence, that lobbyists are hired by groups who have the money to do so. And remember, look at evidence 1 and evidence 2, both are connecting to the amount of money that are part of the political process. Okay, and let's just throw in another piece of evidence here as well. All right, so what else could I say, or some other type of concept? Okay, what do we know that is related to interest groups and money? Oh, campaign donations. Okay, groups also make regular, oops, I didn't spell that right, campaign contributions to candidates in the hopes of supporting someone who will benefit the desires or interests of the group. These contributions are not unnoticed by the candidates who need this money in order to win elections. All right, so I've got a thesis that ultimately interest groups represent a fundamental problem because the large amount of money they inject into the process has a corrupting effect. Citizens United case, I have to mention something about money. It's got to connect to the thesis. It's got to be relevant and connected. Evidence 2, lobbyists. People hire lobbyists for particular purposes, and they pay sums of money to these lobbyists who in turn go to Congress and provide them with gifts or other benefits which could sway their vote. And evidence piece number 3 is groups make regular campaign contributions to candidates in the hopes of supporting someone who will benefit the desires or interests of the group. Now, you only needed 2 pieces of evidence, but I went ahead and mentioned a third just because. Because what if, for example, they didn't like my evidence number 2 or say I didn't explain it well enough? Well, I've got another point in here to help back up what I'm going to do. All right, now to the reasoning. Now, some of you just included the reasoning in your explanations, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. You can put it at either part. All right, but your reasoning is going to have to link this here to the to the thesis. So I'm talking about money. Each evidence piece talks about money and how money can have a corrupting effect. Now I have to explain the reasoning behind that. So I'll say something like this: super PACs, for instance, can spend so much money on political activity that benefits a candidate, and this candidate, once they win election, could feel pressure to support the goals of that particular super PAC. I don't know why it does it. It wants to not capitalize that. I'll leave it alone for the moment. All right. So ultimately it says, look, this super PAC might feel that they have to represent those viewpoints. All right. And you might want to include something on the order of these super PACs spend hundreds of millions of dollars on political activity, and candidates could not honestly say that doesn't bring a certain amount of pressure, right? Then we could also add something to the effect of, like, what if we want to bring in campaign donations, right? Or let's mention something else about super PACs. Super PACs do not, or how about here, are not supposed to coordinate with candidates. However, even if they do coordinate, it would be difficult to prove. Therefore, these super PACs with money would have far more influence than groups who did not have money. Right? And look, all you have to do is have a reasoning point. If you have a reasoning point somewhere in the neighborhood of just one thing, that's good. All right. And you can put that in here in your evidence one if you want to do that. And for lobbyists, you could say something to the effect, and I'm not going to type it all out, but you add something to the effect of, hey, you know what? Lobbyists who or groups who have the money to pay lobbyists have more access to lawmakers than people who do not. And then with campaign contributions, you can mention something to the effect of people expect something in return for a campaign contribution. So when you do the reasoning, it's okay if you want to just include it right in here with your evidence piece. They're going to look for that when they read it. Okay. Now, and sometimes, like I said, it doesn't always have to be a long, drawn-out explanation, but the more you write, the better off you are, because you want to leave no doubt that Citizens United case, which allowed super PACs, all right, to spend unlimited amounts of cash on political activity, these people ultimately have more influence than groups who don't, because they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and we don't even know if they're actually coordinating with candidates or not. All right. So with your evidence, you can mention the reasoning. You want to connect this evidence about Citizens United back to the thesis. All right. And then finally, let's do a counterclaim. Okay. Some individuals or proponents of interest groups might claim that these groups are merely exercising their constitutional rights of free speech and free assembly. And then let's say I'm going to grant them that. I grant that, or you could even say, I concede that this is true. And then the key part here, you want this, a however statement. However, all right, groups which have considerable financial resources have their voices and free speech heard far more than groups who do not. This is not a fair balance when you consider the lawmakers in Congress benefit from the groups with money. They will be more likely to listen to the free speech of moneyed groups rather than the groups without money, right? And so we're saying, hey, I concede that yes, these people are exercising their rights of free speech. However, okay, you always want a however, right? Or a but, right? And remember, it should be a big but, okay? Groups that have considerable financial resources have their voices and free speech heard far more than groups who do not. This is not a fair balance when you consider the lawmakers in Congress. They benefit from the groups with money. They will be more likely to listen to free speech of moneyed groups rather than groups without money. Okay? And once you put all this together, some people did it like this. You actually listed thesis, evidence one, counterclaim, et cetera, et cetera. And once you do that, though, you can just simply like delete this off here, take this away, all right? And that, and then this, all right? Take that away, that, and now, look, fun fact here too, people. Paragraph breaks. Please use paragraph breaks. I don't want one big blob of text. All right. So what we'll do there, tab to indent. We'll take this back up one, tab to indent, back up, tab to indent, tab, tab, and tab. And disco, there you go. You got yourself an essay, all right? If you got questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let me know.